Caterpillar has been the major producers of excavators for 6 to 8 years. They never had a competition. They knock off any competition, and they became the world's largest dealers in earth-moving equipment. And they did that by having a channel of suppliers all over the world, that if a Caterpillar breaks down, their strategy is that within the shortest possible time, maximum by 3 days, the fleet should bring you whatever parts you need. Okay, so their main strength or their core ability, which gave them access to the market, was that no matter where you are, if there is a breakdown, there will be a Caterpillar dealer with you. You know, and they had over 10,000 dealerships globally, all over the world. And so it was difficult for anybody to compete with them. But something interesting happened. You know what happened? Komatsu, which was a Japanese company, a very small company, came and turned the business upside down and challenged Caterpillar to the level that Caterpillar was losing almost 30 to 40% of the market. And the way Caterpillar was big, if they lose 20%, they won't be able to survive. Because in terms of machinery and the factories, they need that money for it to work, for them to be able to produce at that level. And guess what? In terms of R&D, research and development, Caterpillar's budget was huge. It was like 90% more than Komatsu. In terms of resources, Caterpillar was 95% more than Komatsu. And so the question was, what happened? You know, and when you look at that story, something interesting happened. Whilst Caterpillar prides itself in its ability to supply parts when they break down, Komatsu said, our machines don't break down. You see what they did? So they built machines that does not what? Break down, high performance vehicles. So that for you to need a Caterpillar, I think the air condition is quite so that's why I'm coming here. So Komatsu says, we are going to build machines that doesn't even break down for you to need parts. So it means that in terms of the lifespan of the machine, if the life cycle of the machine is 10 years and you have only 2 breakdowns in that 10 years, you save money. Whilst if the Caterpillar will have to break down, let's say every 6 months or something, and you will have to wait for your supply, why go for Caterpillar? What is the key there? Strategy. Leadership. And so the first thing we're going to look at is 7 keys to the top. So that any industry you run, any business you run, you will be able to think ahead, plan ahead, and be able to move ahead of the traffic. You know, I am into industry, and the industry I'm into fiberglass. And the Chinese came and they confused everything. But we have to think ahead, and we were able to put in place structures that help that. So I'll be sharing some of those experiences with you. Okay, so let's go. In terms of high performance, the first thing that matters is leadership. Leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Leadership is cause, all other things are effect. If you go to any organization and anything is not working, don't blame the workers, blame the leader. I say if I go to a city and the city is dirty, I blame the mayor. If you come to my house and my house is dirty, don't blame my wife or the children, blame me. Hold me responsible for the dirt in the house. The same way when we go to any company and the company is not working, it is the reflection of the leadership. And so the first thing we need is the leadership must think in a certain way, because the leader is the mirror. The people only reflect what they are. Okay, in the military we say we don't have bad soldiers, we only have bad officers, because the soldiers are a reflection of what? The officers that runs the army, you know. And so the first thing is leadership. So if you're in a leadership position, the question you ask yourself is that, what have I been doing? What has been the impact of what I've been doing? And then, am I getting the result that I expect out of my actions? And what do I have to alter in my decision-making processes? And so the first thing you have to do is to hold yourself responsible as a leader if you want your organization to move forward. And you have to be honest with yourself, sit down and do retrospection and introspection. Retrospection, introspection. What must change outside and what must change inside? Because whatever is inside will produce what is happening outside. So you as a leader, you got to sit down and do introspection and retrospection so that you can see your weaknesses and your strength. And as a leader, in order to push your organization for it to be at that edge, to have that edge, one thing you need to understand, as I've written there, is that people don't do what you expect. People do what you inspect. That is the key to the failure of leadership in Africa. And a lot of organizations don't really achieve so much. That is why a lot of small-scale industries suffer. Because we assume if we give instruction, people are going to do it because we said it. Nobody will do it because you said it. They are only going to do it because you inspected it. And you yourself, you know most of the things you are told to do. If there is no inspection, we really don't do it. And so for the organization to be very efficient and to be able to produce, there must be the ability, the measuring mechanisms to be able to measure the inputs against the outputs is extremely important. Extremely important, extremely important. We have to get that right. Leadership. And the leadership, I will share 3 things that leadership must do. Number 1, think outside the box. Think outside the box. Because you cannot solve a problem by the same level of thinking that created the problem. You cannot what? You cannot solve a problem by the same level of thinking that did what? That created the problem. So it means if you are going to solve a problem, it means you must change your level of thinking. And sometimes it requires that you think outside the box. Let me share this story with you. You know drip irrigation. How many of us have heard of drip irrigation before? Please? Okay, cool. Let me explain drip irrigation. The Israelites used drip irrigation on the desert for their farming. And drip irrigation, the concept is simple. You know, let's say these wires on the floor, like spaghetti tubes, and then they put little holes in there, and then they pump water. But what happens is that the water doesn't sprinkle randomly. Wherever the water will be sprinkling, that is where you put the seed. So immediately they open the tap, the seed, the water will feed exactly what? The seed. And that is how they actually farm on the desert in Israel. And by doing that, you reduce the amount of wastage of water by almost 70 to 80%. Because you are not just spreading the water on the land where there is no seed. You know, this drip irrigation technology, you know how it came about? It came about because, you know, there was a pipe that was running through the desert. And a man sat down and observed something very interesting. He observed that desert area, there was no tree, no grass, nothing was green. But there was one tree that had been able to become a very giant, mighty tree. And he was surprised that how come this tree alone is standing in the desert? And so he went further to investigate what was happening. When he went there, he observed that the pipe that was passing by the desert had a little denture in the small hole, a pinhole there. And the water was just dropping, and that drop of water was actually what was supplying the tree in the desert its source of water. And he got the idea that then if I can create this pipe and also put and create holes in it and plant seeds specifically where the holes are. Then I'm going to also, I can farm actually in the desert. That is how Israel started farming in the desert. There is also another one. It's also happened in Israel. You can get this in this book, The Startup Nation. It's a very good book of business. The Economic Miracle of Israel. You know, the Israelites, they wanted to also do farm in the desert. And when they dug a borehole, they sunk a borehole, and they went almost half a mile. And when they went half a mile, guess what happened? The water they discovered was salty. And can you imagine digging half a mile only for you to get salt water for vegetable? And they were going to do vegetable. And so salt, vegetable, they are not brothers and sisters, you know. And so they said we cannot also allow all our effort to be wasted. Something interesting happened. Somebody sat there and said, I do remember that I went somewhere and I saw a farm. It was actually a fish farm. They were doing tilapia and they were doing catfish, and the water was a little salty, but they survived in it. So instead of we doing vegetable, why don't we convert it into a fish farm? Then they turn the water that should have been a liability, they converted it into the biggest fish farm on the desert in the world. You must think outside the box, because most of the challenges you will also face, the challenges are opportunity in disguise. Today, as I speak to you, you know the largest fish farms in the world. Where are they? They are in Israel. Most of the technology is coming from there. All those technologies that Israel actually developed, it was actually out of necessity that those technologies evolved. You know, and so leadership must think outside the box. You must learn how to look at things from other perspectives, you know, in order for you to be able to move your organization to the top and to be able to create that culture. Because top performance and excellence is a culture. That is why some companies can produce the best cars in the world. For example, Mercedes-Benz. Anytime Mercedes produces a car, when you sit in it, you have the feel of Mercedes, because excellence has become their culture. And then you have institutions that mediocre has also become their culture. There are nations that excellence is a culture, and there is a nation with the capital which starts with the one of the alphabet letters, which also mediocre has become their culture. I didn't mention this. I said one of the alphabets. Am I right? From A to Z, you can choose one. It can be Zimbabwe, it can be Togo, it can be Ghana, it can be any of them. That one, I'll leave it to you. You know. So number one, the leader must think outside the box in order to push. If you want your institution to be able to produce, and then the next thing is pay attention to detail. That's really important. No institution, no nation, no individual can go beyond a certain level of excellence to control any market or organization or competition without paying attention to detail. Paying attention to detail must become a culture of the institution for the institution to perform well. Paying attention to detail. And in order to pay attention to detail, it means that there must be training processes that have been inculcated into the organizational structure that will compel you to pay attention to detail. When I started working, I didn't pay attention to detail until I went and worked for some white guys, to tell you the truth. You know, I had the normal Ghanaian mind, and you can do things, you know, Ghana way, if you know who. You know, Fadisa, until I went for a certain engineer who, you know, I remember the first day we were going to plug an instrument, and then there was no socket. And you know the normal Ghanaian way. If you have no, what do you call it, the head, what do? You take the two wires, you look for some pin, and you push it in. And so I just took the wire and I pushed the thing in, and then I put on the grinding machine, and it was just working. When he came, as if I've committed murder. He couldn't believe that I have blocked the thing like that. And I said, oh, this thing, we've been doing it for a long time. You know, when mediocre becomes a culture, it's difficult to. And you have to deliberately drive it away. It will not leave the organization by chance. No. It will not leave the organization by chance. And as long as there is mediocre, you cannot be able to perform at a certain level. I gave that scenario the last time we had a leadership, Accra leadership conference training. And I said, if you have the opportunity to take Ghana Airways, British Airways, and Nigerian Airways, which one will you take? Please, I beg you, which one will you take? Okay, we are going to be patriotic, so we'll take Ghana Airways. Two of us. Oh, you take Ghana Airways? Made in Ghana Goose. One day I decided to buy a made in Ghana Goose. I bought a shoe. It rained in the shoe room, but I said from that day I don't buy the shoe because it's made in Ghana. I buy it because when I wear it, it can carry me home, whether it rains or it doesn't rain. You know, will we board Ghana Airways? Okay, Nigeria Airways. I traveled to Nigeria once. I was coming back, and they said the aeroplane didn't have fuel. Oh yes, I sat in the airport for three hours. There were guys who were coming to do a catch-up in Ghana. They missed their flight. I can't through it. You can't believe that. So what happens to Saturdays? So now, where is Ghana Airways? Extinct. Where is Nigeria Airways? I don't know. Maybe they have only one wings. So, you know, but for ours, the two wings are gone. It didn't just happen. Cultures produce results because people think in their culture. That's why you can have somebody who is very educated. He goes to America, Japan, China, everywhere. When he comes back to his culture, he begins to think in his culture, you can't have results. His education becomes obsolete. So until you turn your education into culture, you can't have change. That's the dream of Africa. Until you turn your education into culture in your organization, you can't change anything. What did Jesus say? He said, by your culture and tradition, you have made the word of God of no effect. The only power on earth that can nullify the word of God is culture. Very important. So leadership must think outside the box. In order for us to do that, pay attention to excellence and must build the culture of excellence. The culture of what? Excellence. Very important. Let's move from leadership because I have 40 minutes. I think I'm all right. I have consumed 15 already. The next thing is vision. Vision. Vision drives your actions and inactions. And when you don't have vision, you become the vision of somebody. So the next thing you need in order to move the organization and consistently perform at the highest level is that there must be a vision. What did the Bible say? He says, where there is no vision, what happens to the people? They perish. So, and another translation says, the people cast restraint. It means they do anything, anyhow. You know? And so it means that for an individual, your personal life, as an organization, as an institution, you have to, your vision must be clear. What do you want? What do you want? Where are we going? What do we want to achieve? Let's say we are a shoe producing company. What kind of shoes do we want to master? What market are we looking at? What do we want to achieve? What kind of turnover are we looking at? How can we get it? What kind of marketing strategy do we need? You need a vision that should guide you. The difference between developed countries and underdeveloped countries is vision. You look at Dubai, it's vision. I read his book, Ben Salah Kamoro. My vision. I read Gaddafi's book, The Green Book. I have read this man, Lee Kuan Yew, my favorite, From Third World to First World. I've read it. It's vision. I've read the Chinese Chairman Mao, his book, the Sixth Modernization of China, their plan. China had a plan. It's vision. You need it. Without vision, you're going nowhere. Without vision, your resources you will just dissipate your resources because there is no target. You know, without vision, you are like a man shooting an arrow without a target. What do you hit? Nothing. And you don't know you have not hit anything because you don't even have a target. I hope you understand. Yeah. Where China is, if you take in terms of nations, China is a high-performing nation. When you go to China and you order a suit, it will be ready in 6 hours. Yes, 6 hours. Yes, 6 hours. How long does the tailor here take? If you make a mistake and your wedding is 3 weeks, and you give him the material, my father is still waiting for his suit. So my father told me when I was going to get married, he said, so your suit 6 months before time, or you go and buy already made. But if you give it to the tailor, you'll be waiting. I'm telling you, true, my father is waiting for his suit. The man has also it. The material got missing. I think I have some believers in the house who have had that before. Once in another nation, in 6 hours, your suit is ready. What kind of culture is in place? And and all those things don't happen by chance. They say if you look at a monkey jumping from one tree to the another, it is not by chance, by constant practice. It's not by chance. So it's extremely important that we have a vision for the organization. It's extremely important that you have a vision for yourself also. Extremely important. And the vision must reflect where you are going. How do you develop a vision? We will look at it at another time. The vision must be driven by your imagination. At a certain time of your life, imagination is more important than education. Because education only solves the problems that have happened before. But imagination solves the problems that have not happened before. For example, if we are going to the moon, we can't use education, we use imagination because no man has been there before. As we are going, we're trying to go to Mars. Who has been there? There's no education. Everything that is going to be done is by imagination, probability, and then the education that have been acquired will guide you. But it is not the education that will take you there, it's imagination. And so imagination itself is an intelligence which must be developed for an institution to move forward. Because it is with the imagination that you create the future you want. And then you use the education as tools to get there. You use what? Imagination to create the future you want. And then you use the education you have acquired as the vehicle to do what? To get there. So it's extremely important to develop a strong vision. The next thing, let's look at it. The next most powerful tool you need in developing a high performance team is communication. Communication. Because if you finish creating your vision and you cannot communicate your vision, how do we attain it? The team must understand it. They must know where we are going. And everybody must come on board. So it means that the leadership must develop a very powerful communication tool. This scripture, Genesis chapter 11, 5 to 9, it talks about, can we read it? You see a very interesting scripture there. Let's carry it for a moment. Okay, Genesis chapter 11, 5 to 9. Yes. Okay. This is a story about when men, the human race, that they decided that they were going to build a tower to heaven. And then, so they had a project. And this was a very high performing team, which threatens God himself. The first time man's action is threatening God, God says, these people, there is nothing that will be what? Impossible for them. We've never seen God made such a statement before. And so something happened. Look at, God is going to stop them. And look at what God touched. He says, and the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing shall be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Remember I told you the power of imagination. They said, go to, let us go down, and let us conform their language, that they may not be able to understand one another. So the Lord scattered the people from earth upon the face of all the earth, and they left off the building to build the city. So here the people, God himself says, these people are a very high performance team that is impossible to stop. And nothing will be impossible for them. But we want to stop them. Look, God didn't take their money. God didn't take their resources. What God touched was their communication. He says, let's give them different languages, that they cannot work anymore as what? A team. The project will be abandoned. And so you see that in an organization where there is no one language in terms of a vision and where we are going, no performance. Whether a nation, when the nation has no one language, there is a group with this language, this one with this language, the nation can work. Whether it's a family, it's the same principle. And so the key, one of the keys of high performance is communication. All of us must speak one language. God comes and says, these people are not going to allow them to build. And God does not touch any of the raw material. He didn't do anything. The only thing God did, he said, let's confront them by uttering their language. Let's put a barrier in communication. Let this one speak Kotonkoli. Let this one speak Ewe. Let this one speak what? Gan. Let this one speak Chi. Let this one speak Hausa. The project. Yeah. And I believe that the blacks were at the height of leadership during this building program. That's why we have a lot of language. No, anthropologically it's true. And I can prove it. I'm not here to prove it, but when I come to prove, I'll prove it for you. Because you see, we have more languages than any tribe. You go to Europe, Netherlands, how many languages do they have there? You go to America, how many languages do they have? The British, how many languages they have? They may have different dialects of English, but it is not like the way we have, where you look at only Ghana, look at the number of languages you have. Go to Nigeria and see that location alone and see the number of languages they have. Africa has more languages than any tribe of people on earth. That is one of our confusion. It's a spiritual thing, but it's a powerful thing. We've not looked at it. It's a spiritual thing. Remember, I told you we think in culture. So when you think in culture, and culture is expressed linguistically through language. And so when I don't speak your language, you don't speak my language, what happens? You are not your brother. I'm alright. You get it? Okay, you know you're my man now. Oh, this one and a man. This one Nigeria. I'm alright. Immediately, the project cannot go on. And so, for the organization to work as leaders, you must make a deliberate effort to create one language in the organization. It may not mean just speaking English or French or anything, but in terms of the vision, what we are all looking at. I hope you understand that. Yes. So very important communication. Do everything to allow information to flow. Very good. Let me move. Then the next thing we say for a high performing team, the next thing we need is continuous learning. Continuous learning, because things are evolving very fast. And I like to always use the typewriter. If you were a stenographer secretary, those days a stenographer secretary was a very powerful person. They were in the offices, if you don't know, and their pride was the typewriter. And then they slap it. All right. My mother was a stenographer secretary, and she has a book, Pete something. Who knows that book? Correct. And she was very proud of it. But now it's obsolete. I remember the bobbin. They have that bobbin. They'll be turning, and then when the paper. Now my sons don't even know what the typewriter is. Let me share this with you. Do you know the company that actually invented laptop collapsed 6 months after the invention? Are you aware? What happened was that when the company invented the laptop, you see, it was quite small. The interface, the screen was very small. And what happened was that another company after 6 months invented another, it took the laptop concept, developed it, and increased the screen. And at that time, the first invention, they've not finished selling what they have produced, and people stopped buying the old stock and went and bought the new stock. They did not have money to go back into production. Look at how far the laptop has gone. The very guy that invented didn't benefit anything from it. And so you have to continuously learn. It's extremely important. If you don't continuously learn, you will not go beyond a certain level. Because you see, nothing by itself has value until man touches it. And the level of knowledge with which man touches it determines the price. Should I repeat? Yes. I say nothing by itself has value until man touches it. But when man even touches it, the value that the object takes is directly related to the level of knowledge which man touched the object with. So for example, if you take iron ore and you take it, I don't know how much it is selling now, but let's say you have iron ore which a ton may sell for, let's say, $200. Man just took it from the ground. He's not applied wisdom, information, and technology to it. So its value is what? $200. When man takes that same ore, apply wisdom to it, and turn it into steel, the value moves to what? Thank you. The value moves to what? $2,000. When man apply higher knowledge and converts the steel plates into a vehicle, the value moves to $100,000 if it is a Rolls Royce. Staying still. But what is happening? As knowledge is being applied to it, the value is what? It's changing. So the level of knowledge the people working in the organization is applying to whatever they are doing determines the end cost of the product that is coming out. And so when you increase knowledge, not only are you increasing your ability, but it is also affecting the cost of the product. Extremely important. And you have to do that. So there must be continuous learning, and then you must also unlearn what you have learned. Because sometimes the knowledge you acquired yesterday can become a liability for future decisions. And so there are things that you have to learn. There are some you must unlearn in order for you to be able to do what? to move forward. If you were a typist and you used to use the typewriter, you'll be used to the noise. But now you are using the tablet. There is no bobbing, there is no something to hit at the top. You don't have those noise. You must unlearn in order to be able to do what? To do that. Let's say you a mechanic. You used to repair cars which were combustion engine. Now they are electric engines. It means the knowledge you had in relation to combustion, you must unlearn it. And now learn what? How electrical engines work. It's the same thing with the organization. And then you must relearn. You must relearn consistently. Because new innovations are coming. Even your computers, every time new drivers are popping up for you to upload, am I right? For the computer to function better. So the same way also, new information is coming up and you have to learn quickly. Yes. This is my favorite picture. What do you see there? That's me going to space. I'm in the middle one. I don't know, you can choose one. I'll give this. Don't worry. This is a space shuttle. Okay, and we are moving to space. For the space shuttle to be able to move to space, it needs consistency. A space shuttle is a high-powered what? Machine. You see every space shuttle, this space shuttle you see here, that if as it goes up, only this part is necessary. From about 80% of the whole body you see is fuel. For every space shuttle, the whole body you see, 80% of all those tanks you see is fuel. So that is why you see that when a space shuttle is going to space, after some time, part will fall off and then to continue because they are reducing weight as they go. You see part will fall off, then they continue. Part will fall off, then they will continue, you know. But in order for them to do that, they need consistency. So for an organization to move to the dimension where they will be highly productive, there must be consistency with the quality of any service or product they are developing. It's extremely important. You know, that is one reason why our local products don't break through on the international scene. You know, when you drink Coca-Cola, the taste is the same. But when you drink Davies, what do you call it? Sobolo, today is nice, tomorrow the pepper is too much. Am I right? And the next time you drink that salmon, the maize has burnt. But when you take the malt, the taste of the malt is what? For us to have consistency in whatever we do, it means whatever we do must be measured. That is one of the problems we have. We use assumption, you know, instead of measuring. So you see, you see a plantain, a bunch of plantains. Instead of counting it, we say up in 100. It can be 7, it can be 20, as long as it is measured what you are doing. In order to attain consistency, God measured everything. That's why He has 7 days. God is a measuring God. Let's move. Focus. You must know what you want and follow it. No organization can reach their maximum ability, the ability to produce at the highest level if they don't have focus. I told you the story of Komachu and Caterpillar. Do you know what actually happened to Caterpillar? The reason why they started losing edge is that they started venturing into other sectors. They started going into movement of what do you call it? When relocation, when people are relocating, they started producing cargoes so that they can take your goods and relocate, which was not their core mandate. It was an area they have no idea about. And so the strategy that brought Caterpillar back was for them to gradually come out of sectors that was not their core mandate, so that they can focus on what Caterpillar was designed to be. I hope you understand. And so extremely important. And then you also need speed. You need speed. You need speed. Speed is a good thing if only you can control. Because the shuttle cannot go to space without speed. the speed must be constant, the speed, it must be focused, but you also need speed. Because if somebody comes into any industry which you are already functioning, and the person can offer what you are offering at a better speed, he will knock you off. He will knock you off. How many of us have ordered things and we are so angry because the things we ordered, they said a day and it took 7 days. You have to call somebody before somebody will call somebody, and somebody will call somebody before you get your goods. By the time you receive what you want, you are tired. The next time you don't buy from them again, true or false? So it's the same thing. So it's extremely important that whatever you do, you must have speed in your manufacturing, in your production. It's into us cheaper. What we did was we couldn't compete with price, but we saw that we could compete with speed. What they will import and the time they will import, we will finish our production time. And so it's extremely important that we develop speed. I'm not out of time, words, but I'm out of time. God bless you. Maybe 6 or 7 slides. We will look at it, so keep your notes, and then I believe that the next time we will continue with it. God will bless you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Give us the ability to practicalize what we have heard. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Bless you.
God bless you, sir. Thank you so very much. I think we have about 10 minutes for questions.
Today, and I have a small company that I've been running since 2003, and that's what has been keeping us for some time. And indeed, that is what sincerely brings in the money that I use for everything that I do. But recently, we were invited by our principals, and they showed us some charts, and clearly I could see that we were not doing so well, of course, post-COVID, you know. And so, but the way they attacked us at the meeting was very hectic, you know. I really felt punched in the tummy, you know. But when we came home, in other words, came back to the company, and we began to reflect, I went to my accountant and another partner. I realized that we were not paying attention to detail. I realized that we had many assets that we had not focused on, or we had not been diligent on monitoring how they were performing. But it had to take a sober reflection and also conceding that we were not really on top of things. And it's interesting to say that within just 2 months after, I have seen the chart, or the chart because I've seen it go like this, just as a result of paying attention to minute detail. You didn't mention also that you could always delegate your staff, but if you don't supervise the measure gets done. If you just give an open whatever you need, nothing really happens. So I just want to just say that what you said really, and right now it's like I'm exposing myself to everybody to say that I was once foolish. But I'm saying that also because I do know that so many of us are complaining that there's not this, there's not this, there's not that. But I tell you, let's search ourselves. Right. The problem is not there. God has blessed us with every spiritual blessing in heavenly places in Christ Jesus. He's not about to do it to. It's there already. But our eyes are blind. We can't see. He said, today we went to the US embassy. Hey, the lie. No be easy. Where did we go? If only we can be a little more diligent. Once upon a time, I wasn't diligent. Today, I've learned my lesson. And you have reinforced it. I thank God for that.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Roland has 2 businesses. One is doing well and the other one is...
takes me to the next question. I'm so sorry. You know, you did mention that we should focus. But sincerely in Ghana, I mean, I can't focus. Because Charlie, my consultancy used to do very, very well. And then I had this other one. And then all of a sudden, the fortunes changed. If I had not had two, and I had focused on one life, I could have probably
Okay, so I can answer that. So what you do, what I have observed, is that normally what you do is that when you build a new business and then a new idea comes, don't move your workforce from the old business and transfer them. There will be a vacuum. That is one of the major causes of all expansions failing. And so when you build a new business, make sure that you also train a new team and move them there so that this business will continuously run without interference. You know, I suffered that before. You know, I moved into another area and then I transferred workers from here so they are good. And then I just moved them there. And it created a vacuum. And so, yes, you can expand. But when you are expanding, make sure that you train people, you don't create a hole here. You don't rob it down to go and pay for PSPs. Thank you.
Please, more questions. I think we have a few more minutes to do that. Any more questions?
I've widened my scope of thinking to think outside the box and not have this myopic view I've had for a while. So you've given us quite an interesting outline to follow to the top, but I would like to ask a question. Of course, you are given this thought because you used it yourself and it has worked for you. But during your try of this, have you ever faced any difficulties with it, or it has been smooth throughout? And if you have faced difficulties, how did you go through that? Thank you very much.
I'll speak like a grandma, plenty, you know, a lot. There is no businessman who have not gone through the ups and downs, you know, and you need a whole testimony season for me to go through the things I've gone through, you know. So what I would say is that you learn quickly from your mistakes. That's one of the things, and then you don't beat yourself. You know, our field rep said it. He said, when they went to the meeting, you must be frank, brutally frank with the truth. Sometimes, when you are not doing well, you should be able to say we are not doing well. You know, and one of my best clients who have helped me most are the most difficult clients who don't take anything for granted. They were the ones that helped me. You know, they cost me money because sometimes you will produce for them. You know, our company will produce transparent roofing sheets for warehouses and pergolas, and we build swimming pools. So we deal with rich people. And you know, rich people, they don't take anything for granted. You understand? He's gone to Dubai, seen a swimming pool, he wants you to build the same to him for him, and then you come to do some, and he's giving you good dollar. He will call you a dog. And tell you that he's not feeling the pool. You know, there's some scratches in there. You know, so I think one thing you should do, if you want to reduce your losses as a young entrepreneur, get a mentor. And when you get the mentor, don't look for his money, look for his wisdom.